impaired people throughout the world who need access to materials. This treaty grants an exception that allows materials to be produced in a specialized format for the use of those blind and visually impaired people. At one point we said we were agnostic on some of the concepts that were being discussed, like three-step test, and whether it needed to be included or not included. And yet, when it takes 5 days to try to reach negotiated language, and then that language is yet again up for further negotiation, we're no longer agnostic. We take the view that copyright holders have protections through international instruments. You do not need to repeat those protections in a document that gives an exception. It only creates dysfunctions where restatements of those rights are seen by some as overreaching and by others as insufficient. This is not an instrument to convey rights or to reaffirm rights, but to grant the ability for an authorized entity to take a material and produce it for the blind. I know I'm running on, but let me be very quick. This then gets tangled up in all sorts of technical problems that really do not need to be addressed. And I'll speak specifically to commercial availability. In practice, no authorized entity is going to spend its limited resources to produce a material in a specialized format if that format already exists. This is not a problem in terms of day-to-day application of this exception. And yet by introducing it into the treaty, it creates its own world of complications as it applies to cross-border sharing, etc. Our plea is to keep the focus on the right of an AE to produce material, the so-called burn gap. Frankly, if I produce a book for a 10-year-old blind girl in a nation that is not a signatory to the international copyright instruments, I do not believe in any way the rights of the copyright holder are in any way compromised. If people want to steal intellectual property, there are much easier ways for them to do it. Our plea is to keep the focus on a simple instrument that does not impose burdens on AEs that would have the impact of dissuading them from trying to address the book famine. And thank you again, Chairman, for allowing me to offer this intervention on behalf of the World Blind Union.